Have you ever actually thought about what your taxes go towards, or whose hands the money that gets taken out of your paycheck goes to, or where it ends up? Yes, it goes toward government projects such as paving roads, school funding, and so on and so forth. But it also goes towards those in situations where government assistance is needed. I believe that with the way the economy is currently, and also the rate of unemployment, that the government should step in to help support those in need. But I also believe that the money those people receive should be monitored. When in today's society, drugs and alcohol abuse are at an all-time high. According to City Vision University survey, in 2012, an estimated 23.9 million Americans aged 12 or older, or 9.2% of the population, had used the illicit drug or abused a psychotherapeutic medication such as a pain reliever, stimulant, or a tranquilizer in the past month. Have you ever thought about some of those individuals on welfare could be using the money they receive the drugs or alcohol for? Have you ever thought that maybe this could be prevented if drug tests were required for those on welfare? It's time for working Americans to take a stand and speak their minds on whom and what their tax dollars go towards. Those on welfare are receiving government assistance that truly need it and are working towards finding a career or job, make their own money, completely deserve it, and are respected. But those who do nothing to try and better themselves are making attempts to make their own money to stop receiving welfare and are instead buying drugs and alcohol should be held accountable. So how long does something like this get put to an end? Simple. Mandatory drug testing for all recipients. Why? So we as taxpayers and working members of society can put our money towards something more beneficial to society, such as extra school funds, homeless shelters, humane societies, and places and people of that sort, not feeding someone's drug addiction. After extensive research and reading, I stand firmly with this decision after getting more of a deeper insight to the situation. I work hard for my money, and I know every working American, whether they sit at a desk all day or are doing backbreaking labor, does too. Today, I will explain why the solution for the assignment of mandatory drug testing of welfare individuals needs to be assigned, the benefits to the solution, and also what we as collective Americans can do to help take action. Let's begin by taking a look into what the purpose of welfare is and why it should be mandatory for those receiving government assistance. Welfare, in some cases, is an excellent idea. It can help those that have gotten off to a rough start or lost their way down the path get back on. Many unemployed Americans receive welfare to help them buy groceries for their families, put a roof over their heads, or buy diapers for their children. During those times of need, typically the receiving individual of the government funding will be looking for potential work to make his or her own money. There are individuals, though, that take the government funding for granted and use the money to feed their addictions. The solution, mandatory drug testing for all individuals on welfare, due to the fact that, in fact, the person is using the money to buy drugs or alcohol, they should no longer be rewarded the funding. Drug testing has become a hot topic among U.S. citizens today for the mere fact that the government is taking the money earned by hard-working people and using the money to buy and giving it to people who are using it to buy unnecessary paraphernalia, when the person who earned it could have bought his or her family groceries to last them a week or more. If government officials enforce a law to certain standards to something as this, it can potentially cut down drug abuse, unnecessary government spending, and unemployment. The means of welfare in the beginning was to help those unemployed get on their feet and encourage them to find work to decrease unemployment rates among the states. Now, some still use it for that purpose, but others sell their free food stamps to get more money for crack or heroin instead of buying their babies' diapers. So I know what you're thinking. This could work, but it could also be a blind shot in the dark. I understand this, but let's take a look at the benefits the economy will reap in comparison to the disadvantages. According to Harold A. Pollack, illicit drug use and dependence are more common among women receiving welfare than among women who do not. Also, alcohol dependence also appears more prevalent among women receiving welfare than among those who do not, though this effect is smaller and more ambiguous than is in the case for drugs. Why is this, you may ask? There are low education levels, lack of transportation, and lack of job skills. The purpose of welfare is to try to provide the people with opportunities to better themselves. If there is a random mandatory drug testing for these people who are not taking advantage of these opportunities, it will allow them to not only begin taking the steps towards a better life for themselves, but also to ensure that the high level of responsible behavior is upheld among those receiving welfare. Although those receiving welfare are not in the best of situations, they should still be responsible for being upheld to somewhat maintaining the responsibility of society. Not only should drug testing be issued for those on welfare for the purpose of being held responsible for the societal responsibilities, but it's also fair to those who do not receive welfare and work on a regular basis. The vast majority of the working class is required to take a drug test before and during their careers to make sure they abide by the laws. Also, the military requires drug testing as well as many colleges. In this regard, many welfare recipients should also have testing done to maintain the equality established by society. Yes, there are many downfalls to this drug testing, such as cost expenses as well as time constraints, but overall the pros outweigh the cons. Drug testing not only will exemplify equality, but it can also help save the lives of those who do test positive for drug use. By confirming the individual is using drugs or alcohol, the government can instead put the money they are receiving and using for drugs towards something such as rehab to help get the person clean and on their way to better living. As you can see, the benefits to mandatory drug testing far exceed the disadvantages in ways to not only better the individual, but also the economy and society too. So how do we begin getting involved with a project such as this? In order to begin taking on a change in systems and style among the United States, it is pertinent that everyone is on the same page and for the right reasons. We as a whole must begin to make this transformation in law by taking baby steps. The first task is making the problem known and taking a side. Are you for or against? Would you mind paying a few extra tax dollars if it meant knowing your money was going towards someone who isn't going to take advantage of it? Then, the problem and solution should be recognized and supported by the state in order to make it to the government. We put into place the new law and cannot help those on welfare, but you as well. Now that we've taken a further look into the solution of mandatory drug testing for welfare recipients, which side will you choose, for or against? During the speech, we took a closer look at the problem of those who take advantage of the welfare system in order to meet their own addiction needs. By doing so, we came up with a solution as to how we go about fixing the problem, which was to require mandatory drug testing for those who receive welfare or government assistance. We took a peek at why mandatory drug testing was a solution to the problem. We also discussed the pros and cons associated with the solution and how they will benefit the recipient as you as the taxpayer. And finally, we discussed the actions needed to take in order to put the solution into action. This was a lot of information to consider and to take in. I completely understand that. But wouldn't you, as a taxpayer, feel so much better knowing your money is not helping destroy the life of someone by help feeding their drug or alcohol addiction? Or knowing that your hard-earned money was going towards something to better society, such as your child's education, and then having necessary utensils or cloths provided by the school, or the safety of you and your family when driving down a newly paved highway? The next time you are taking that urine test for work and passing it to the nurse to be processed, remember that you have to take that test to earn their money for someone else who can get it for free.